All right, so welcome to today's webinar. And today's lesson is about the imposter's guide to a 10K month business on how to package your creative genius into a signature practice that attracts clients who pay you what you're worth, right? Okay, so first of all, um, you know, I'm going to talk about where are you in your creative journey. Oh, by the way, for the ones who just come in, hello, hello, welcome, welcome. And my promise to you by the end of this call is that we're going to learn specific skills that you can go and implement and go and get buyers. So just curious to know how many of you, and feel free to pop this in the chat. I'd love to know how many of you guys are still working full time in creative roles, like maybe a designer, director, marketing leaders, and doing your business on the side versus actually doing your business full time, right? Just comment down below. I just want to get an idea of the audience if I can have some feedback. Yeah. I work freelance. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, okay. All right. Okay, good, good, good. So, either way, today's session is going to be, valuable for all of you, right? So, what we're going to go over today, to be very specific, is why you should start your creative business right now. And here's the thing: if you are working, like I know some of you mentioned who are doing both, don't worry. The whole idea behind this lesson today is that you're not going to need to quit your job to go and run your creative business and get the whole thing off the ground. No worries on that. If you've gone full time, again, no problem either. All the power to you. And the goal here is again to give you the information that you can go and execute on to build your business as an insurance policy in this unstable environment that we're in now. Okay. So, so now we're going to talk about what we're covering, right? Again, tactically speaking, I'm going to just give you the three-part LinkedIn buyer system for creative leaders. This is the same stuff I teach my creative clients. Some of my clients actually attend these calls, right? So I'm actually, pretty sure, some of them are going to pop in because they just like attending. Now, how do you do this with limited time, right? Again, all of you have different schedules. I respect that. Some of you are working with, full-time hours in creative roles, and some of you are working with part-time hours, right? So either way, I'm going to give you the lesson and everything you're going to need depending on the time availability that you have. Okay. Now, here's kind of the best part of all this and just getting the groundwork out of the way, before we dive in. Again, if you've ever been to my calls, you always know that I like to incentivize you guys to stay, right? So because only I have your attention now for like the next 30 minutes or so that we have, and I want to make sure that every minute count. So here's the deal. If you stick around to the end of this call, I'm going to give you a bonus, and actually a bonus that I've never done before. And I just want you to take a look at my curriculum really quickly. Okay, right here, right? And, right here is my actual program. And right now, one of the very first lessons that you can see at the top, right? It's called Ideal Client and Program Builder, right? And literally it's a full lesson. It's one of the first lessons I teach in my entire program. Why? Because if you can get this stuff down, everything else becomes very easy for you, right? It's the North Star that you need in order, to run your business, right? To that would influence your content, that would influence your DM, right? So here's the deal. If you stick around to the end of the call, I will give you this exact lesson. You can look at the timestamp. I won't cut a second out of this video training today. I'll literally give you this, right? So all I ask is that you stick around to the end of the call. And for those of you that stick around, you're going to get access to this, okay? So that's a expectation there. All right. So going back to, the agenda in terms of who am I, right? So the last bit of groundwork here, which is like, who am I? Some of you, again, know who I am and have attended calls, but some of you are probably like, oh, I don't know who this guy is, or I don't know who he is. So let me kind of just run you through so that you get the idea, okay? So right here is my LinkedIn profile. And, my name is Eric Tan, and I'm actually from Hong Kong, spent over 20 years in the creative and entertainment industries. Creative leadership is my thing, right? I've got to be honest with you. Since I started my career in my 20s, that's all I dove into. That's all I ever know, right? So going into these creative roles, I've done everything from working at Warner Music, Universal Music, Sony Music, to gaming companies like EA, Gameloft, and Riot Games. So grateful for all these opportunities. But here's the thing, I always felt like an imposter. I was like, the C student, C grade student creative who never felt legitimate, right? And I paid the price, right? I was laid off multiple times. And the lowest point came when I bet everything on my own creative startup. Like it failed so badly that six of my own staff like held me and my wife hostage in our home over unpaid salaries. And I was sued by an investor who happened to be my high school friend, high school classmates, and I was just drowning into debts. Like that's probably one of the lowest points in my life. As terrible as that sounded, I used that creative R&D from the 20 years in corporate to build a solo practice that now generates consistent 10 to 30K months working with creative leaders worldwide today. I always like to show these logos, right? Not in a bragging sense at all, but just so you know that you're learning from someone who's been in the creative trenches at the highest levels. These companies, Sony Music, Universal, Riot Games, I help launch global artists and like billion-dollar gaming franchises. So again, the reason I'm showing you this is just so you know what I'm talking about, like when it comes to this stuff for creative leaders. Okay. Now, what I'm genuinely more proud of, and let me just switch the screen here. So like all these testimonials, right? Like what I'm generally more proud of than anything else is my client results, right? Like these are just a couple of screenshots here. You can see one of my clients, Nomi, right in front. Like she enrolled into my program and made 15,000 after the 4th week of working together, right? And let's see, maybe let's go to something a little bit more recent. Yeah, Christoph, right? So and this is Christoph. He's the latest client of mine, and he just sent me this message, and he sent me saying, "Wow, you really made a difference." Right? So I don't know, like this one just really hits me because, like, to know that Christoph just quit his corporate job and couldn't figure out how to monetize his expertise. He didn't know much about any of the business stuff, right? I remember when he signed with me, he was quite skeptical actually. He's like, "Hey, I don't know if you're legit or not, but I'll take my chances." And just barely in for a week, I received this message. So that's got to be something, right? And everyone has their why. And now that I'm in my 40s, right, it's something that I genuinely think about. Like, why do I do what I do, right? And it's to be able to help people like this, right? People like you guys, right? Like genuinely, like Christoph or Nomi at this trajectory, they don't have to work corporate. They can go and run their respective consultancy. And there's a benefit to give people the tools and information and support to give them that kind of creative freedom, right? That's the reason I do what I do. Okay. So again, now that you've seen all that, I just again want to legitimize, what I'm teaching you today. And I want you guys to kind of be at the forefront of all of this with all that. All right. Okay. So the problems that most creators face, like, you know, why most creative leaders, struggle. So, we've gotten all that out of the way. Let's officially dive into the lesson of today now. And I'm just going to keep it real simple. The problem right now is that most creative leaders are just doing the wrong activities on LinkedIn, right? If there's one thing I can genuinely tell you, and this was my first business coach that mentioned this to me. He said, "Eric, if you're not where you want to be in business, it's only because of one of two things." He said, "It's either the lack of information or the lack of execution. Either you don't know what you're doing or you're not doing what you should be doing." So, and I'll tell you right now, I've spoken to a lot of you creative leaders, and I've taken like hundreds of sales calls in my life. For the majority of creative people, it's not a lack of execution, right? Most of you guys are hard workers, right? I'm not here to question your work ethic or anything like that. What I'm here to say is that it's about the information, right? And the problem is, if you go and execute every single day and you're doing the wrong activities, well, then it's not going to lead anywhere, right? There's no nobility in working hard and not seeing results, right? As harsh as that sounds. However, again, if you start doing the right activities, everything else just comes into place, right? So it's really, really important. And again, I just want to debunk this myth before even anything else. Look, if you're working, 9 to 5 in a creative role right now. You don't need to quit your job. Okay. I have creative clients who don't want to quit their job. Right? They're happy making 10, 20K per month as a side hustle, right? Even if they make more from their business than they do from their job, sometimes they just like to keep it, right? And some people don't, right? Everyone's different. But my point is, genuinely, you can keep your creative job while making 10 to 20K run business. All right. Regardless of where you fall, maybe you guys are full time, that's fine. But I just want to make that extremely clear. And it's very simple to run a 6-figure creative business on LinkedIn, right? I hope by the end of the lesson, you actually have fundamentally see that, and all you do is just execute beyond that. All right. Okay. Now, why LinkedIn for creative leaders and the perfect platform for creative professional? Okay, so why does this matter? I'm honestly not even going to go through this that much, right? Like, I think you guys all know why this matters, right? You have to create a business, you want to make money, you want to impact lives, right? So you want to do this, right? The most important thing that you need to understand right now, though, is I'm going to make this clear, do not be on multiple social media platforms, okay? Despite what Gary Vaynerchuk says, okay? Don't be on multiple social media platforms. If your creative business is under 20K per month, there's zero benefits at all in being on any other social media platform other than LinkedIn. Right now, you have to understand that, attention is one of the most, let's say, precious commodities there is out there. And to be able to get the attention of your buyers, to be able to get people to pay attention to you, to learn from you and all this, right? You go on platforms like Instagram, even Facebook, the cost of attention, even if you're doing things organically, it's extremely hard, right? LinkedIn has that underpriced attention for creative services. Like, legitimately, I want you to think about this. The people on LinkedIn are professionals. Okay, everyone already kind of knows that. Now, here's a crazy stat for you, right? 40% of LinkedIn users in the United States have an income of 75,000 per year or more. Compare that to the likes of Instagram, which is like 5,000 a year. It's ridiculous how much more, how big the gap is. It's like literally 15 times stronger, the buying power on LinkedIn than it is on Instagram, right? Or TikTok or these other platforms. And then also, people are not really creating that much content on LinkedIn, right? I know it might seem like so because you see it on your feed, but in terms of ratio, it's only about 3% of people on LinkedIn who are content creators. So which means 97% are consumers. So you have 97 consumers and 3% actual creators, and you have high quality buyers. So it's the perfect concoction for actually running a very successful creative business, right? It's all there for you. Now, will it stay like this forever? I don't know. But I'll tell you, you probably have a 1 to 3 year window to take advantage of this. And if you build enough momentum, it won't even matter what happens next because you'll actually have a foundation to stand on. Okay. Okay. Let's keep going. Now, next, the math of a creative business, simple numbers for 10K months. Okay, so let's actually get into the tactical part of all this, right? So first thing first, and if anyone here, I'm gonna be straight up with you. Like, if you're selling your creative services by the hour, please stop it. Don't sell your services by the hour. Sell your services by the packages, right? If you're selling $150 per hour to like all that kind of stuff, it's not gonna take you anywhere. You have to understand that again. It's much easier for you. It's much easier for you if you're buyers, if you sell things in package form, okay? And let me just share this sheet right now so that you get a visual. Okay, so let's say I'm keeping it simple today, and let's say your goal is 10K, 10,000, right? And your offer price is 5,000. Again, 5,000 is a very standard price in the creative consulting agency space. Very standard. Like, honestly, the way things are going, it's probably more on the lower side than the higher side, right? I know design directors who are charging 10K for their brand strategy programs right now. So either way, going with 5K, you only need 2 clients, right? And then the reason I put 8 calls needed is because, look, obviously, in order for someone to buy from you, they need to get on the phone with you, right, to trust you. And this is how it works, right? In order for someone to actually pay you a high ticket amount, whether it's 5K, 4K, or 8K, they obviously want to speak to you, right? They want to learn what is it that you're offering, right? It's a far cry. It's not impulse buy like you make on Amazon. So it's a little bit different than that. You got to put your face out there. People want to speak to you and all that, and they want to get validated, and have you validated as well. So again, you're not going to close every single call that you get, but assuming you're doing the right activities, assuming you're getting the right people, you're talking to the right warm leads, you should close at a 25% rate, right? And I want you guys to really audit yourself. Okay, think about this right now. Are you guys closing at least a 25% close rate? Because again, if you close to like 20, well, that's fine, but if you're anything substantially under 20% in terms of your closing rate, then there's something wrong with the system, right? And I'll tell you that right now. Okay. So again, even I'm going with 25%, and you need 2 clients. You need 8 calls, obviously, which means you only need 2 calls a week, right? Think about that. Only 2 calls a week. 2 calls a week, 2 qualified sales calls a week, and you're making 10 grand a month. It's not a heavy ask all of a sudden, right? So if you're doing the right activities, booking 2 calls a week should be a piece of cake, right? Very, very important. 2 calls a week. It's less than like 1 call a day, right? It's literally 1 call on Monday, 1 call on Wednesday, and you're done, right? Right. So, and the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that you see, it's not always linear, right? I want to be clear about that in business, right? Business is never really linear. Maybe you do 0 calls in 1 week, and then you do 4 calls the next week, and then you do like 3 one week, right? And then you do 1 another week, but it adds up to the same 8, right? Just remember that. So don't freak out if 1 week is like slower than another, right? The way I operate my business is we track week to week, and we only analyze like month to month, where we actually make decisions on, what we need to change and what needs to be done. Okay. Before I go any further, is this all making sense? I just want to be clear, like maybe put a thumbs up in the chat or something. I want to make sure that everything is super clear for everyone. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Rio. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's keep on going then. Okay, so on to the 4-step creative attraction system, right? The creative leaders client acquisition engine. Okay, so the next thing here is, what does the client acquisition system looks like? You understand the math, right? From our last section, right? I broke it down already, right? So look, marketing has not changed, right, since the ancient Babylonian times. Like if you go back and look at history, you go look at the way things in marketing in general has never changed, right? The only thing that has changed over all these years is the medium, right? The platform, right? Like before it was maybe like the town hall, right? You show up at the town hall and then you offer your services or your products that people buy. If you go to like, some Middle Eastern countries, like Turkey, there's still like bazaars, like, or flea market, like the same ancient ones. It's the same strategy that they're all doing. You might walk down the street and some guy, like has some perfumes or something, and is trying to offer you a sample, and you try the sample, it's good, you buy it, and then it's not, you walk away. It is what it is. And it's the same thing on LinkedIn, right? The bazaar or flea market strategy still applies to everything here that we're doing on LinkedIn, right? So look, every single buyer that you get for your creative business will go through these 4 fundamental steps, right? And the first one is called awareness, right? And awareness is simply when people become aware of you, right? Meaning they acknowledge your existence. Doesn't mean they want to buy, doesn't mean they're interested, doesn't mean they even have the thought of purchasing, in their mind, right? They just simply acknowledge this existence of you and the creative service you provide, right? This is it. And that should be your first goal with everything that you're doing on LinkedIn, right? And I'll get into how you do that, but the idea is simply acknowledging your existence. The second step is the hook, right? Now, where does your value come in? Like, what is the initial value that you bring to the potential buyer that makes them want to take action, that makes them want to at least learn more? Again, in the hook phase, they're not necessarily buying. I like to use the example of Apple, right? Like Apple's is a perfect example. Let's just use their design philosophy, right? We're all aware of Apple's design approach, right? Everybody's aware of their minimalist aesthetic, right? Like think about it. We all know their design language, but I'm 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 not really like, sitting on my desk, every day thinking about their next product, right? Like I just know that is, it's coming. So what's the hook? The hook is when you actually like I said something that intrigues you, right? Like it makes you intrigued, right? Then comes the nurture. Again, let's say you're looking to hire a creative director, what are you going to do before you hire them, right? You're going to do some research on them, right? Right. Like whenever I hire a creative talent, like I'll go look at their portfolio, right? Maybe read their case study, maybe watch their presentation, things of that nature. I want to make sure they actually have the creative vision that I'm looking for. And then, obviously once I'm nurtured, I come and buy, right? Very straightforward, very clear, right? And it's the same thing on um, and it's the same thing on LinkedIn, right? Like I want you to understand this. Your awareness comes from your LinkedIn profile, right? Your awareness also comes from your content that you publish every single day, right? And it's also the connections that you add. So those are the three things, right? Like when you add new connections, post content, and when people come to your profile, right? With that, you will generate some level of awareness. Okay. Now, the hook comes from your stories, right? Your creative journey. I really want you guys to know this. Like this is really important. Like your hook comes from the stories, creative experiences, and lessons that you share on LinkedIn, right? I had a creative client who actually paid me in full because of one story I shared, right? Just one story, right? I talked about the story of how I was at Riot Games. I fought for a particular creative vision against the corporate stakeholders and how that ended up creating a $1 billion game franchise, right? He literally said, look, something about that story that you told just hit me. And I get it. I've been in the same position too many times trying to defend creative work to non-creative stakeholders. And it's something that I really resonated with, right? Then boom, there was that emotional connection. So it's the same thing with you. Like I want you to think about this when it comes to your content on LinkedIn. Remember, you're not selling your services. You you are the product, and I can't stress this enough. Right? You are the product. Like all you creative leaders are the product. You're not actually selling. You're not actually selling design services. You're selling access to your creative genius. Right? It's the same with me. Like I bet none of you guys even know the name of my company, right? You guys just know me because I put myself out there, like as a creative voice, a creative leader. So if you really want to know how these creative leaders are doing it, the people who make like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, millions a month, they just have like 4 or 5 creative stories that they recycle. 4 or 5 stories that they're proven in the market and that genuinely hit, and they just repeat those stories in different ways, different angles, different just different ways of actually expressing the same creative message, right? So think about it. Like what are those big creative stories in your career? That could mark the start of you kind of being able to recycle your ammo, if you like. Okay. Now the next thing is actually your opinions about the creative or industry or the industry that you work on, right? Have an opinion on something. Like I'm telling you, like if you guys can do this on LinkedIn, the single thing here, actually have an opinion and not be like a snowflake or like some like overly like neutral creative, you will beat out 90% of your competition. People on LinkedIn are afraid to be polarizing. I don't know why. Maybe it's more of a professional platform, right? They're a little afraid of what people will think, or it might go against them. Quite the opposite. It will actually work in your favor. If you're, you can just take that, baby steps. Okay. So let me just share one of my articles here, right, about Riot Games. Okay. Um, Okay, so again, like what do I mean by that, right? So if something happens in the creative industry, like some like whatever it might be, like some big layoff or some creative controversy happens, you might remember all the layoffs that are happening in the gaming industry. For some of us here, I just for the sake of it, like threw in my 2 cents, brought in what I thought about it from a creative leadership perspective, and this is one of the most viral post I had all year, right? 178K impressions, 36 comments, and 7 reposts. And it took me like 10 minutes, to write the post. Why? Because it was a thought-provoking hook, right? Like it's what did I say here? I couldn't even leave Riot Games on my own terms. Oh, okay, interesting, right? So yeah, like basically yeah, have make sure you have your hooks right there, right? To so that people will be incentivized to read the rest of the story, and then if they're related to it, they'll also reshare, etc. From what you've seen so far. Okay, all right, let's share a couple more. Okay, I think this one is also interesting. Again, using Riot Games, right? So one of my most profitable posts on LinkedIn was a post I wrote, being misunderstood in corporate, right? I.e., because they like to put you into boxes, right? And if you don't fit into a box, then you're out of the game, right? Pun intended. And I literally wrote this, and what ended up happening from this post is I had tons of people saying, seeing they needed this. Like you're doing the right thing. I love to speak with you, man. Like, and then we ended up like converting 3 or 4 creative clients from a single post. Why? Because the hook was strong again, right? Like what is it? I thought I was going to rock the world, right? In this case, right? And the feeling of being trapped and can't be the best of both worlds in corporate really resonated with some of these people, right? So again, be very controversial on LinkedIn about your creative topics, and I'm telling you, the single activity will literally separate you from 90% of the creative people, right, to go on LinkedIn, when you get a chance. Look at how neutral the content is out there right now. It doesn't get anybody going, right? If you could just be that one creative leader who steps outside of the box, steps outside of the line ever so slightly, you're going to be in a whole new stratosphere. All right. Okay, let's keep going. Now, the nurture and conversion system, turning interests into clients, right? All right. All right. The third thing here is the nurture, right, on LinkedIn. You have to understand that there was a study done. I think it was by Stanford, and they said the average high ticket buyer needs to consume, like it was about like 3 hours worth of content before they could buy. Now, I believe the study was actually done on Instagram, so it's actually less on LinkedIn. And the idea is like I tell you from my experience, like if you can get your buyers to consume like 1 hour of your creative content, right, just 1 hour, they're sold, right? If they get on a call with you, then they're going to be sold, right, right there and then. So this is why you can't just rely on the LinkedIn post alone, right? Because think about it, every LinkedIn post is like what, a 1 minute read, 2 minute read max. Think about it. If it was a 2 minute read, that's like 30 posts. You got to bank on the reader seeing every single day before they're bought into you. It's just too much work, right? So nurture could be, and we call this a middle funnel, right? Nurture could be like an ebook about your creative philosophy, could be a training video about your design process, and then it could be a coaching call, like just like this, right? Like a master class, right? Like literally, you guys are all in my nurture funnel right now, right? I have your attention. I'm giving you value, and I'm teaching you all of that, right? The idea obviously is to bring you value and establish enough trust so that when the time is right, you guys are like, yeah, this is the creative coach, that I want to work with right now, right? He's giving me enough free value. And I'm telling you, if you don't have a nurturing mechanism in your process, it'll be like trying to go from like I don't know, Toronto to like New York to Los Angeles on a scooter, right, rather than a plane. Where it's like it's a million times harder than you just get on the plane, right? What's very important when it comes to client acquisition is the vehicle that you're using, right? Again, I want you guys to really, really internalize this. I'm not here to make your creative life harder. I'm here to make your creative life easier, right? So make sure you use the right leverage, right? Have the appropriate middle funnel tool to give you leverage, right? And the beauty of all this again is if you're working 9 to 5 in a creative role, if you're in a job and you don't have all the time, you don't need to like really think about this that much. When you create content, this is pretty self-explanatory. When you create content, it's not like you're sitting there and like distributing the like a flyer post to each reader, right? The LinkedIn algorithms are doing that for you, right? When you send someone a video, like a training video about your creative process and an ebook about your design philosophy, whatever that might be, you're not like sitting there and like reading it with them, right? Like they're doing it on their own time, right? So think about this is why it's so much easier than it's ever been. You know, you have the opportunity of leverage now with all these platforms, and there's zero cost to this. Setting aside like timing, like opportunity cost of timing, there's zero cost to this, right? There's zero cost to posting creative content. There's like zero cost to distributing your creative lead magnets, right? It's a very straightforward thing to do. So just understand like why this is so valuable right now, right? And then obviously the last phase, conversion, right, which is the bottom funnel, like get them on the call, and and then if it's a right fit, they will buy, right? People will buy. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, moving on to content examples that work for creatives, real creative content that converts. Okay. Now, with all this being said, right, going to the fundamentals of all this, I'm actually going to show you guys some example of creative content rather than all of it, rather than just 100% theory for you, because I know this will actually help you a lot. So let me also share one of my other articles here. Okay, again, about like getting laid off, et cetera, right? So let me go over here and show you this. Like I literally like whipped this post up in like 5 to 10, 5, 10 minutes, right? And I wanted to, see the numbers. And again, I don't care about numbers that much because what I do care about is the business side of things, right? But just so you can see like a 10-minute post, why did this post do so well, right? And it was just, a post about the cost of waiting for validation, right? Tied a little bit back to my coaching business, things like that, right? But this post, did pretty well because every creative leader had gone through the same thing, right? Very important. And people want to hear what other creative leaders, want to say, right? And then this post over here, right? Me and like a baby version of me. And next thing here, I'm gonna show you guys some, I'm gonna put you guys on some, really, valuable stuff here, right? Take a look at this one here. This is another post I did, and we booked like multiple creative clients from this, right? This post did, decently well, right? We got a bunch of people DMing us, booking calls, and a couple of people converted, right? Why? Because I'm actually sharing something about my vulnerability, right? Again, you decide where you draw the barrier, right? Some creative leaders don't like to, show their vulnerability, and that's cool. That's cool. But whatever you do want to share, get people connected, with you as a creative leader. I do this, like put a call to action, and then just let the system do its thing, right? And the beauty of all this is that I'm not involved in the scaling, right? It's the algorithm, right? I didn't deliver this to all those people, right? The videos, sure, the people who DM me, we send it to them, but I wasn't like sitting there watching with them, right? They book on their own time. So I want you guys to really just genuinely see what's possible here, right? And again, if we're going like 5K offers for creative services, which I 100% recommend that you should all be doing, at the bare minimum, 2 clients a month, that's it. That's all you need, right? To hit the 10K months. You can keep your creative job. You can do whatever you like in your operating. I want to emphasize this but there's never been an opportunity like this before for creative leaders. And I just want you guys to really capitalize on it, right? Especially with LinkedIn right now, it's still a blue ocean. Everything is just like really, really available at your fingertips. And we have like the next 1 to 2 or 3 years to really capitalize on this. All right. Okay. Let me see. Where are we now on the deadline? Okay, bonus delivery. Okay, great. So moving on now, with everything that I was saying, look, I appreciate you guys for sticking around. I know I want to be very cognizant of time here, right? And we have about like 15 minutes left. So I'll leave you with this. So now that we have the entire list of everyone who stuck around to the end, I'm going to, as promised, I'm going to give you guys my free lesson on the ideal client and value proposition offer builder, right? The only thing I ask is that after this call is finished, or you can do it now if you want, but I'll respond later. Send me a message, on LinkedIn. Send me a DM saying, "Hey, I stuck around to the end of the creative training," and then don't email me or anything, right? But specifically on saying, "Hey, I stuck around to the end of the training. Can you send me that lesson from your paid program?" And then I'll send it to you right away. No questions asked. Okay. So there you have it, a literal full system for you to follow to go out, get your creative business to that six-figure level, and literally live the creative life of your dream. But here's the most important question you need to be asking yourself. How quickly do you want to get there? Because you can take this information, go in and apply it, try, try on the ever method, and 6 months from now, maybe it works, or maybe you get stuck along the way, or you can have all this happen in the next 12 weeks, right? So look, right now I'm looking to bring on 4 more creative professionals who are looking to grow their creative business to a six-figure level with my personal guidance. I will personally help you with getting your creative offer off the ground, design it in a way where people literally say to you on the phone, sign me up. Do you take Visa or MasterCard? I will help you figure out, where your creative bias are on LinkedIn. I will teach you what kind of creative content to create, and I'll show you how to convert these buyers on a regular basis. Essentially, I will be your creative business co-founder for the next 90 days, helping you to get this entire creative practice off the ground. And with that, without much further ado, I want to introduce the special Black Friday offer that I'm doing. So here it is, the LinkedIn Sales Mastery Coaching Program. So the goal of the program is that I will personally help you to simplify and scale your business to consistent six figures by turning LinkedIn into a client generating machine. Okay. So we're going to be stacking the value here, right? Instead of 4 sessions with me on lead gen, I'll be giving you 6 sessions, right? Instead of the 3 sessions on sales scripts and objection handling, I'm giving you 4, right? Recordings of each call were provided to you, right? Instead of 6 months of group coaching on all things mindset content, it's going to be 7 now. And instead of 6 months of live coaching on lead generation sales role play, it's also going to be 7 now. Google Doc notes from every group session will be provided. Unlimited direct chat support with myself, provided that it's the weekdays. I normally have like a 24 to 48 turnaround, provided it's the weekdays. And then there's all these bonuses, right? Done for you chat GPT prompts for content, sales, and messaging. You get the lifetime access to our Sway community with other six-figure coaches and consultants, right? You get full access to all group call recordings and notes from 2024 to 2025 and ongoing accountability check-ins, like what a co-founder would do to another co-founder, okay? Structure of the program, right? Phase 1 will lock in our LinkedIn client acquisition system, where we build a foundation that attract buyers and book calls weekly, right? This is the phase where everything clicks and you start seeing real income generated. Phase 2, get buyers on easy mode, right? Leverage systems to make your business run smoother and faster, where you work less and your pipeline stays full, okay? Phase 3, achieve scalable freedom, scale to multi-six-figure level with automation and delegation, right? Where your business scales even when you're offline, okay? Structure of the group coaching will be 7 months, right? You'll receive 7 months of group coaching with myself, and each call is structured as the first 30 minutes will be like an in-depth lesson, right, with me, like what kind of content, e.g., like what kind of content, attract buyers these days on LinkedIn, or, how should I, what are the steps to take on, how do you manage your DM so that you don't, trigger sales defenses for your prospects, right? And then the last 30 minutes will be like open for questions to support all of you, like for any problems that you're having in real life. And if you can't make the call, no worries. Everything is recorded with notes provided to you. And here's our coaching client guarantee. We guarantee that you will make 2x return on your investment in this program within 90 days, assuming you complete and follow all the tasking requirements. If you're not there, I will personally coach you one-on-one every week until you get your full return on investment. Okay, so it's a hybrid. There's group, but there's also one-on-one, right? To make sure that you close your first sale or close more sales beyond that. So our goal from this program is really to get your results, and we stand by it. Okay. All right. So if getting my support, at this level sounds like something you would genuinely be excited about, then I want you to book a one-on-one free call with me. Michelle, if I could trouble you to share the link right now on the chat. I put my calendar linked on there, and I want you to click on that link, book the call, right? Now that we're going to do this What we're going to do on this call is to really evaluate your creative business, where you're at. Are you just coming up with an idea? Do you have a creative offer? Whatever it is, we'll figure out, where you are, where you want to go, right? We'll map out an entire game plan of what needs to be done on this call, and then we'll figure out, where you need to go from here. Now, if I feel I can genuinely help you out, I'll tell you about my creative leadership coaching program, what it would be like to work with me, like all of those details. But again, no obligation, whatsoever, right? If I don't feel it's the right fit, I'll tell you that too. So take advantage of this call. Like, it's totally free with me. The only thing, like I said, is I want you to take the call if you're serious about, getting support, right? Again, book the link on the call. There's only 4 spots available, and I'm shaving $1,000 off, from this flagship program. After that, I'm locking it up, and we'll revert to the original price. I'm not going to be giving any, more of my time away. All right. So looking forward to having the game plan sessions call with all of you creative leaders, and the call link, the offer expires tomorrow night. Okay. So if you click on the link now, you'll literally see, I think there's only 2 business days, where you can click a call to have this discovery call with me. Right. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, I'll open the floor up for any final questions you creative leaders might have. Feel free to pop them in the chat, right? Let's see. Is there anything else? Any questions at all? Anything, Michelle? Is there anything there? Okay. Again, the link is in the chat, right? The booking calls link in the chat. There's 4 spots available. Like, the bonus lesson is waiting for those who message me. I'm gonna end the call here. Oh, what do we have here? Alirio, yes, please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hey, Eric, what's up?
Hey, I'm good, brother. How are you?
Amazing. Good here. So, I on your presentation, you talked about nurturing
Yeah,
your ground, your your future customers or something like that.
yeah.
So, let's say I work in as on technology, and I work as an IT. So, what will be kind of like the content that I can share there? Because I've seen many things. I've seen like carousels that you can download as a PDF. You can see tutorials that they redirected to your YouTube page. But what could be like one of the most engaging, or what that can be like that thing that really pulls me out, or really differentiates me from what I want to do. And I
Ah,
tell you this because of this. I work as an IT and as a technical consultant,
yeah.
but I want to be like a game designer. So it's kind of difficult.
Okay,
It's kind of difficult because my dream is to actually start to develop some gaming projects. But when they see
okay,
when they see my
okay.
LinkedIn,
You're speaking my language, by the way. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So that's it. That's it. They see my LinkedIn and they see like, okay, this guy's kind of doing QA
yeah,
and
yeah,
doing development, but I don't see too much of gaming on this. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Now, I'm glad you asked, Valerio. Okay, so when it comes to attracting buyers on LinkedIn, you really need to think about like top funnel content and middle funnel content, right? So like the difference between the two is that top funnel content is like you want to get people to like you, and then you want to get people that are relatable to you, right? And then the middle funnel content is more like your methods, right? Like okay, like how do you help your people to go from A to B? Well, where I see the mistake is that some people might skew one or the other. So for example, like like if you might be familiar with like the DISC personality assessment. Like I'm like the influencer. I'm like the influencer type. So my weakness is like I talk a lot about myself. Like how am I awesome, like as a dad, and and stuff like that. And then so in terms of credibility, I really have to remind myself, but oh, okay, I think I'm posting too much personal stuff. I need to post more like my methods, like what are my client acquisition methods, what are my sales methods. So I need to work hard on that. On the flip side, like on the DISC personality assessments, there's like the engineering and conscientious type. Like these type of people is the other way around. They do a lot of value,
Yeah.
methods, but they don't know you. They don't know you as a brother. They don't know you as a father. They don't know you as a person. Like what you fight for, what you stand for. Then
Right.
it's not relatable, right? And analogy there for Alirio is it's like let's say you go like someone that you totally don't know goes on the street to you and go, hey, Tesla stocks are going to go up by 300%. And then like let's say even if it's true, the next day you're not going to feel bad because you don't know the person.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So I think yeah, I would say like be cognizant about the top funnel content and middle funnel content, but otherwise, yeah, don't be afraid to share your views. Like, why do you like this game? Why do you think this game sucks? Like start putting it out there.
Amazing.
Yeah. Does that help? Is that helpful? Does that help?
Yeah, yeah, it's really helpful because I've been looking at some other users on LinkedIn, what they post about gaming, uh and they kind of like, some of them go exactly to the technical side. For
Yeah.
example, I was following these guys that they're both Russian or something like that, and
Yeah.
they're posting this content about game design, and
Yeah.
it's amazing because it has so much information. Like, okay, you had like the MDA methodology to game designers,
Yeah.
so it's all technical, but you don't know them. I
Yeah.
mean, like I'm telling you, I
Yeah.
I I saw them. I know that they're from Russia because I saw the last names, and they those last names sounds like they're from there, but I don't know the guys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
there's the other side of things that, like, for example, I see a lot of people talking about the layoff, and they kind of like
Yeah.
catch your attention with the layoffs, and feeling bad about the layoffs, and in the end, kind of like, we have these resources for you. You want to get back into the industry, or you want to
Hmm.
perform, or you want to
Hmm.
improve your perk. So
Yeah.
it's, I see what you're saying there. It's kind of like, you mostly, what you say about the Tesla example, like, okay, you might be millionaire if you invest here, but you don't know the person. So you won't leave your money into a person you don't know, if you don't know that,
That's good.
that could actually be a business if you will grow. So yeah, I think that I will follow up and start just speaking my mind and see where it
Nice.
takes me.
And you know what? I think there's a missed opportunity here. Like as you know, a lot of gamers just congregate on like Discord and Reddit and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But all the hiring managers are on LinkedIn.
that's right. That's
Right.
right.
So I think if you can kind of take advantage of that arbitrage, I think you'll be in a pretty good place. And then you know what? Just send a neutral DM, right? To
Mhm.
to to whatever the hiring manager. Oh, hey, I live, eat, and breathe about these kind of games. I'd love to connect as colleagues. Leave it as that
Yeah,
and see
amazing.
what happens. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Any more for any more? You're welcome, Asia. You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna, end the call here, and thanks for your time to all you creative leaders. I believe in you. I know what you're capable of. Now go out there and build the creative business you deserve, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay. Goodbye now.
Thank you. Bye.